I know we quoted you this much, but it's going to be a lot more than that, and this is the reason why. Hi, my name's Daz and welcome to another video at P&K Thornton Restorations. Today we're going to talk about some other techniques of restorating cars and talk about some of the things that customers don't kind of understand or realise the in-depth nature of some of the work we do here. Some of the reasons why the estimate goes up is when you come to peeling off the outside skin of the car and you find this. All this has been basically replaced and made by hand because it was missing originally. We had the outer panels on the car, and then when we took all that off to repair those, we found that most of the car underneath was missing and had been patched up and repaired over its years, used with filler, fiberglass and everything else. And of course, some companies would just patch it up again and replace the outer panel so you didn't know what was underneath it. But here we decided, right, this has to be done properly. So before the outer skins go back on, all the inner structure has all been remade to how it would have been at the factory. We've also got, in the far side, we've got a Alfa Romeo GTV 2 litre that we've done on a few videos. It's the one that had all the expander foam and filler inside of it, showing how bad some of these cars have been restored before in the past. And they come to us to be done properly and hopefully last the rest of their life on the road. With this Alfa Romeo, the cost difference in some of these cars is totally different. Whereas in the 2 litre GTV, you can buy most of the panels for the car. On this Spider, a lot of the panels aren't available and we've had to remake them. And as you can appreciate, to actually manufacture and produce panels by hand when you haven't got patterns for them to start with, and sometimes not even half the panels are there remaining, you've got to figure out how to make them correctly to how they should be, and then install them back on the car in the appropriate place. Make sure everything else lines up. Sometimes customers don't realise this when they undertake a project. We estimate a price or estimate a timeline for what the car is going to take, and until you strip back some of the layers of these cars and see how bad they are, obviously the timeline and the cost is going to increase with the amount of panels you have to make or the amount of work that's required to get these cars back on the road. Like I said, on the GTV, the panels are readily available, whereas on this 101 Spider, they're not. You can get the majority of the simple panels, like the sills, the floors, and things like that, but a lot of the joining panels are not available. Right, over on the GTV, as you can see, Rob, our other technician, has already taken out this side of the floor and sill panels, ready to start replacing them. He's already replaced all the new floors and sills on this side of the car. As you can see, that's quite a majority of the car that's been taken out and replaced with new panels, so this car will be in really good condition for the rest of its life. As we were saying before on the Spider, it's great when you can get the majority of the panels already made. These are very, very good quality panels that fit really well, and a few trial fits and they're ready to weld in, which makes our job a lot more easier. As you can see on this car, lots of it has been cut away, ready for reinstalling the new panels. And like I said, you can get the rear quarters, the front wings, the front panels, everything for this car. It makes the job a lot more easier. Also, it can be a lot more quicker. A lot of the time it has to be added to the estimate because the timeline on making these panels is an estimate. We don't know how long it's going to take us to make them. We've got to make them correctly and fit them to the car correctly. So if a customer came to us and asking about restoring a car similar to this, we would go around it first and have a prior look at it, see if there's anything majorly obvious that's standing out on the car, if you can put your hands through a sill or something like that, or the part of the floor's missing, which is obvious. But generally, if the customer is serious about restoring a car like this, then we basically tell them we first need to take it back to bare metal to be able to see what's happened to it in its previous life and what further work's going to be needed to do it. But as you can gather in this car, even when it's back to that stage and it's still got all the outer panels on, we still don't know definitely what's underneath it. So we can give them a ballpark figure of what we reckon it would be to restore the car and to do all the panel work, but with the option of there could be a few more hours added to it if there's something major underneath that we can't see. And we always keep them informed on this as we're working through it. Like on this car, you can get new roofs for them, but they're aluminium. So this car, we're going to be remaking a steel roof for this car in-house here at P&K Thornton's. Going forward, we're always asked this question a lot of time, but how is this an original car if you replaced half the panels? A lot of the time, even modern cars on the road, they've had accidents, they've had panels replaced to them. So when you get to a car like this, as you can fathom, over the years, it's been on the road. It could have had accidents, it could have had crash damage, it could have rust repairs. And the idea is, if you want this car to be on the road, yes, there are original panels out there for them, but if you can't get the panel that you need, then the best option is to have a craftsman make it for you as it would have been originally. A lot of the cars like this one were mass produced, so a lot of the panels were pressed in a main factory, which you're not going to be able to get hold of those pressings anymore. Some manufacturers are still producing the panels, so you can buy them, but ones which aren't, you're going to have them handmade. Whereas it was before a certain timeline period, most of the cars were handmade. They're hand-built by coach builders, so it's no different. You get a skilled craftsman that can reproduce the panels and put them on the car, and they'll fit exactly the same as how they should do. So in the future, you can say to them, this car has been hand-built and hand put back together. And like here, we have usually a big portfolio of photographs that goes with the car. So the customer, if he has any idea of wanting to sell the car in the future, all the work that's been done on it can be given in a portfolio to the future customer as well, to show that the car has been restored to a quality standard and will maintain it through its lifetime. Some people also say, or ask us questions about the fact that, oh, why does it take so long to restore it? Can't you just, put a couple patches on it and paint it up? Half the time, some of these cars have had that done previously in their life, and that's why they're coming to us. The problem, if you don't restore it properly, and then paint it up, make it look pristine and everything like that, that's great. But within 5 years' time, you're going to be doing the work again. And it's just not cost effective. Why go to that trouble of having the car completely stripped down, only lightly restored, put back together, pay for painting, having all the interior done again, and then 5 years down the road, you're looking at it going, well, hang on a minute, that's a bit of rust coming back through again. I've paid all this money, which seems a lot of money at the time, but at the end of the day, you're then going to be choice of doing it all again. I mean, why would you take that risk? Why, if you're going to have a car that you want to keep, why not just have it done properly in the first place? When panels aren't available and we need to make them, we can make them in-house. We can pattern off of what we got left and remake the panels to suit the car. As you can see here, this is some of the air intakes for the 101 Spider. They're in a very poor state. You can source these, but they're very hard to get hold of, and you don't know what sort of lead time it would be to get some. So we set about and patterned them, and are now starting to make these in-house to suit the car. This is the one that goes on the inside, which is a cooling duct just for the side of the radiator. And this is the side which has got the air intake for the carbs. As you can see, we've made it to look exactly how it would have been originally. And now this is ready to go back on the car and fit inside. It's not only Alphas and Jags we deal with. We can deal with any car, that any type of marque or make. Because it's basically steel at the end of the day. We're all experienced in working on lots of different cars here in P&K Thornton. And it's like this example here. We had a trimmer come to us, and he had the left-hand side cant trim panel for an E-Type Jaguar, but the right-hand one was missing, so he was wondering whether we could make these for him. So what we done was we made some patterns of the left-hand side and then basically just reversed it and made the duplicate panel ready for him. These panels are not available to buy, so if you lose one of them, they're very, very hard to replace. You have to have them made. And now in P&K Thornton, we can replicate these and produce them for the customers. So sometimes you sort of like get problems in making parts. It's one of those things. Some days you can work on it and it does exactly what you want it to do. Some days it doesn't. It takes you a couple more hours to get the panel to do what you want. So this is some of the pressures you're working with. In your mind, you've got a great idea of how long it's going to take to do a job. But sometimes that can need to be stretched a bit. So we all know the time restraints, the cost for customers and that. But I've got to do it right, and it's got to be done right. I'm not going to cut corners on a job just to fulfill a time, because to me that's not how you restore a car. So then I've got to pass that over to Chip to tell him that this is going to take a little bit longer, and then I'll leave that in his capable hands of explaining that to the customer and explaining why.
The reality is, pretty much as Daz said, we are trying to do our best to create the best restored car in metal, and that involves a huge amount of hours. But in fairness, we have to stick to budgets, and in reality, we have to sometimes adapt to our budget's constraints and to our clients' requests, especially when we start the project on a firm quotation. Then we kind of have to stick to it, and most of the time it is very difficult. So we are doing the best we can, but sometimes we want to give the car a proper chance to survive a few more decades. If we are to cut corners and make it quick, it's just not going to represent our company, and we don't believe that it should be done like that. We believe it should be done right, and that's what we're trying to do here.
As we was talking before about the cost and time of making panels, like on this Alfa Romeo Spider, the inner rear wheel arches, they look like a very simple sort of idea of a panel. It's just basically something that's a tub that's going to protect the inside of the car from the elements from the wheels that it splashes up. But in their infinite wisdom, Alfa decided to make these a very sculptured shape. So us trying to replicate them, it made up its own challenges. There's a lot more shape in them than it first appears. The way that the curve on the top, and then it almost backward curves into the chassis. So this took a lot more time than what we anticipated to make, because basically you've got to beat that shape into the panel, then wheel it out. So the time of doing that and making it fit the car properly and be able to weld in place, it just goes up and up. As you can imagine, it's steel, so hitting the shape into it, shrinking and stretching it all by hand is going to take a little bit of time to do, and especially seeing as these panels aren't available to buy, so you have to make them. Else you're going to have a very big hole in the back of the car that's going to fill the boot up with mud and water every day. These are some of the challenges we come up against, and we worked our way through it and we done it. But you can see that they're very bulbous. There's loads of shape in them, and there's several contact points where they have to be welded to the car, so they have to be made right. You can't cut corners with these. They're a very prominent part of the car, especially when you open the boot and look in the back of the car. You can't just patch things up inside them. They have to look right. So when they're painted, it all blends in with the rest of the car. A lot of the time I get asked as well, is it better to buy a car that's already been restored? Now, the way I look at it is, are you guaranteed that everything that's been done on that car has been done correctly? Or would you prefer to buy a car that needs a lot of work doing to it and know that all that work has been professionally done and it's going to last a lifetime? There is a lot of difference in price as well. A car that's been restored, Series 1 E-Type these days can be £300,000, whereas you could buy a barn find one for about £40,000. Now, there's a lot of cost involved in doing these cars up, but which one would you prefer? One that you know that's been restored properly, or one that you think has been restored properly? A lot of time I've been going through the cars. I've made loads of different cars over the years. I've been fortunate to be involved in lots of different projects and lots of different marques. And people often ask me, does it bother you that when you're restoring a car that you have to make it to how it was as standard. A lot of the time, it's not too bad, but there are other cars that I've worked on where you thought, why have I got to make it like this? Why didn't they make it this way when they made it in the factory? And then the Lancia we done recently, that was the same thing. It was so poorly made underneath the beautiful aluminium body. Most of the inner tub had to be remade, but we had to make it and put it back to how the Italians had made it back in the 60s, which meant making it nice to begin with and then smacking it about and making it look like they had made it, which is a bit soul destroying sometimes when you spent all that time replicating panels and making them look nice, and then you have to smash them in with a hammer because something else doesn't quite fit right on the car. So that's how they done it originally. So this is where the resto mod scene is quite appealing to me, is the fact that you get a classic car with its beautiful lines and shapes, but you get to work on it in a way with a bit of a custom flair to be able to put your own input onto the car to give it the change that you would like to do on it, to make you thinking, well, this design feature will work really well on that car. So I'm quite interested in doing a lot more of resto mods in the future. So if you're interested in getting a car restored, or you have a car that needs to be restored, don't be put off by everything we said in the video. It's down to your own taste, your own budget, but be prepared for some surprises along the way. Whatever you think it's going to cost, it sometimes costs double. And don't be scared about the fact that it's going to take a lot longer. You're not going to get it in 2 months' time, ready for the summer. You're going to be there with your hair, wind in your hair, driving along in the sun. It's not going to be that quick. If you want a car done properly and have it for the rest of your life, then it's going to cost a little bit more money than what you think. But saying that, it's only money. You can't take it with you while you enjoy it while you can. So this has been Daz at P&K Thornton Restoration. I hope you like this video. Please like and subscribe, and please don't hesitate to ask us any questions if you've got any concerns about restoring cars.